Ricken Financial presents Kickin' with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement. Gerry Ricken and Heidi Ricken Provost want to help you reach the retirement you deserve. Let's build a strategy that gives you the confidence while meeting your financial wants and needs. Meet the team at rickenfinancial.com. Now, Kickin' with the Rickens.
Welcome back to Kickin' with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement. I'm Doug Turnbull with our co-hosts, our retirement planners, Gerry Ricken and Heidi Ricken Provost of Ricken Financial. You can get in touch with them at rickenfinancial.com. And Gerry, Heidi, it's so great to be on with you again today to have a laugh and tell some good advice as well. And before we toe into this, because we got a subject that can honestly bring a lot of emotions, right? Long-term care, and whether you're thinking about a relative that needs it or yourself. But before we get into it, I had a chance recently. I've actually been on a string recently in about a month and a half where I got to see in succession over just less than a month or so, Green Day and Smashing Pumpkins at the same concert. Then one of my all-time favorites, 21 Pilots, and then just very recently to when we're recording this, the band Cake, a 90s alternative band, much like Green Day and the Pumpkins there. So I really love getting to go to concerts when I can. Of course, I probably should get with someone that can help plan my income and retirement and financial.
You absolutely should do that, because if you want to do this the rest of your life, we need to talk now.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. All right. At least we take care of the liver, though. We don't go too far overboard on that stuff. But we do go to a lot of concerts. But I would imagine you all love to have a good time. Gerry, I'll ask you first. What is maybe one of your top concerts you've gotten to go to?
Probably one of my top concerts was way before you guys were born, in the 1970s. It was in Arrowhead Stadium, and it was Willie Nelson's 4th of July picnic.
Oh, my gosh. That must have been
fun
great.
fact.
Not even fair. It's not even fair.
Fun fact. Everyone, I've always asked the kids and their friends, between Sheila and I, and I've always been more of a country guy, between my wife and I, who do you think has seen the Grateful Dead in concert? And they're like, well, Mom, obviously. No, I saw him in Arrowhead Stadium at Willie Nelson. Saw Grateful Dead with Willie Nelson in Arrowhead Stadium. It was a beautiful hot day on the AstroTurf back then, and we had just a great time. So that's probably one of my all-time favorite concerts ever.
I can only imagine all the clouds in the air. That's hey, there's a reason the fire
department was there. It was they said it was to keep people cool. They were spraying people, but I think they're trying to spray everything out.
Maintain that contact high.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. By the way, we're recording this a day short of former President Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday, and he was a big music aficionado, and Willie Nelson was one of his favorites too. And just imagine that pair together. It's wild.
Oh my gosh, I know, because Willie's 91 now, I think.
Yeah.
God bless that human. He was not fantastic when I saw him. He had kind of lost it a little bit. I think he was a little too high to be on that night.
Oh my gosh.
Just a couple years ago.
That makes me think of the Simpsons episode where Willie Nelson's sitting in a bus and he has an automatic braider for his hair behind him. The little braider. But Heidi, I know you've had to have seen a good show or two.
Yeah, you mentioned some bands earlier, by the way, that one of my buddies is in an alt band and he sings some of that stuff. So love seeing him every single time he's live. But outside of On the Rocks, STL, shout out to Eric.
I love that. I got to look them up.
Oh, yeah. My favorite artist is Ben Folds. And
yes.
Oh,
Rock in the Suburbs.
Absolutely my all-time favorite. And seeing him play with the St. Louis Symphony was like life-changing.
Wow.
He does this thing called, you're going to have to bleep me out, but rock this bitch. And when someone yells that, and yes, they yelled it at the St. Louis Symphony, what he does is he makes up a song on spot. So what he did was with each part of the symphony, he would say, strings do this, flutes do this, drums do this. And then he just made up a song like out of thin air. And it was absolutely unbelievable. So, I don't know. I don't think you can really beat that moment.
I had the opportunity to go to one of those with Heidi one time, and it was incredible. That man is so talented.
I may or may not have seen him play more than a dozen times, and that was my favorite.
That's really cool. I think my very favorite, just because they're my favorite band, is Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I don't know which one of those. I don't know which one of the concerts was the very best, but honestly, those guys being 60 years old and out on tour 2 years ago, and I saw them twice on the same tour for for their Unlimited Love album. That alone, just you're like, wow. Life goals. So, and I didn't even mean to make a cheesy segue here, but let's just do that because life goals are not only just getting to retirement, but then the latter stages of it in long-term care. When I know Heidi and Gerry, the prices can really go up, right? So, how do you? Let's just open that can of worms right now. We got Medicaid to discuss and just the cost in general, Heidi, of long-term care.
Oh, absolutely. And some of these bands we just mentioned probably need some long-term care. So
I think so.
It leads into it, at least.
In his 50s or so, Willie Nelson in his 90s, the Chili's in their 60s, Cakes in their 50s. Yeah, we got it.
Oh, yeah. Last time we saw Willie, I thought he belonged in a long-term care facility, but that's just my own personal opinion. God love him. But yeah, it's something that 7 out of 10 of us are going to face in the future is needing at least one day of long-term care. And every person tuning in has a story of a loved one or someone they know that has been in long-term care. So although only 7 out of 10 of us are going to need the care ourselves, 100% of us are going to be actively involved in either providing the care to someone or making the decisions in the future too. So it's something that's going to hit all of us because modern medicine's getting great, but when you're old, and sometimes you need some help.
And you're living longer and longer and longer, but you're not necessarily living longer and longer and longer healthier.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And so, one of the conversations we have with everyone that comes through the doors here is, what would you like in the event that you need long-term care? What would you like that to look like for you personally? Because we all have a different idea in mind of what kind of care we would want. And then once we know what your plan is, how can we get access to that kind of care for you? Because it's not free. But there's a lot of common misconceptions regarding Medicaid that I think we really want to go in a deep dive about today because so many people think, I'll just do Medicaid and it'll take care of whatever my needs may be in the future. And that may or may not be the case.
And the interesting thing is when we have those conversations, most of the time, people haven't really thought of that before. So it's a thought-provoking experience for them to come in and just discuss that. When we say, what would that look like for you? They say, well, long-term care insurance is too expensive. We're not asking that question. What we're asking is, how would you like to live your life in the event you needed extra help? That's all we're asking.
And you want to make sure whoever would be providing that extra help to you knows the answer to that question while you're of sound mind and body, not at the point in time that you can't make that decision.
That's a great point. And this is even true. Like I'm really involved in my church and we help mentor our youth group. I'm with junior age guys, especially 11th grade guys. You make the decision about the things that you want to do or the morals you want to keep, the goals you have before you're right in the middle of it. All right. We don't need to extend that metaphor out anymore. So let's get to this because you mentioned Medicaid. Now, when I hear the word, and this is an untrained financial person, this is just a 38-year-old guy that pays attention to the news or something. When I hear Medicaid, I think, well, that only involves people at a certain income level. But eventually, I think it involves a lot of people. So, Heidi, how does Medicaid interface with this long-term care situation?
That's a great point because I think there's a lot of common misconceptions for what Medicare versus Medicaid are too. But Doug, you're ahead of the game because you know that it's income-based. Medicaid is the government assistance that steps in when you need long-term care in the future. It can step in when you're destitute at any age too. But what we're going to focus on today is the Medicaid for long-term care expense for the future. And it's the government program. It's state by state regulated. And it's income-based, but also needs-based for if you need care. So let's talk about the income, Dad.
The income, when a lot of people say, well, how do I qualify for Medicaid? And I have a spouse, maybe one of the two of you needs some care and you need to go into a facility. Well, the thing that people don't realize is in order to qualify that person, you have to have a certain amount of income. You have to have a certain amount of assets. You can't have more than one house, more than one car. You can't have more than about 4,000 in total assets outside of those two assets that I just spoke about, investable assets. And your spouse, when they go in, they take their Social Security with them. So there's a lot of things that you need to do to think about planning for that. And you can have a certain level of a small amount of cash value and life insurance. There are all these nuances that you really need to plan for. and really need to seek the help of an elder law attorney, because they're the ones who are on top of it, and it varies state by state by state by state by state. So, I just spoke about Missouri laws. Every other state's different.
And it's not just finances that you need to think about. Let's talk about what Medicaid actually is, because there is a huge common misconception out there that Medicaid is going to cover you if you need skilled nursing or long-term care or anything. Once again, this varies state to state. This is my disclosure. I am licensed in the state of Missouri, and it varies state by state. So anyway, to get into it, at least here, the type of care that you're going to get from Medicaid is not blanket long-term care for the future. A lot of people think, oh, I'll just spend down my assets, or I'm just going to stick all my money in this trust that this elder law attorney told me about, and I can qualify for Medicaid in the future. Well, if you go that route, first of all, there's a 5-year look back. So anything that you put into that trust has to be there for 5 years before you qualify. But here's what that really means. You're going to give up access to and control over all of your assets into this trust. So you really have to make sure that you have someone in your life who's not your spouse, someone in your life who you trust wholeheartedly to do what's in your right, what's right for you and your family.
Yeah.
Because they will have control over your assets. They will have access to your assets, not you. And if you have a lot of assets that you're concerned about the government taking in the future to cover you for long-term care, there are probably other economical ways to get long-term care coverage that don't involve losing control over your assets or access to them.
Because, you worked your whole entire career and your whole life in building those assets, and giving control to someone else is a huge, huge decision.
Yeah.
And not one to be taken lightly.
And at the end of the day, so many of these conversations we're having with people who have done that, their goal is not to go into a nursing facility. Their goal is to stay in their home and have someone step in and care for them. If that's your goal, the Medicaid spend down probably is not right for you, because most states only step in for Medicaid coverage in an actual nursing care facility. You have to qualify financially. You have to qualify with your health. So you can't do 2 of your 6 activities of daily living, or you have cognitive impairment, and it has to be documented by a doctor. Then you have to find a facility in your area that has Medicaid eligibility and will take Medicaid patients. And then you have to find a bed available that's Medicaid eligible in that facility for you to qualify for it. So there's a lot of steps involved here, and it's not just blanket long-term care coverage for your future.
Well, so I think that what I'm hearing is Medicaid is certainly an option, but there may be too many hoops or qualifications for people to get to that level. So then are you starting with them at age 59, 55, or even 65, saying, okay, if you want this level of care at the end of life, here's how much you have to potentially save and project per month? Is that what you walk through with them, or do you try to encourage people to get ready to take Medicaid? How do you help them navigate all these different options?
Each plan is like your fingerprint. Each one's different, and each set of circumstances is different, and each one desire for the couple, and even for individuals within the couple, is different. Because we've had a recent conversation with a couple, and he said, if my wife needs it, I want to have her at home. But if I need it, I want to go into a facility, because I don't want to be a burden on her. I don't want her to take care of me. I want someone else to be able to take care of me, and she can enjoy herself.
Wow. What a sacrificial statement, by the way. About this.
Oh, absolutely. And at the end of the day, that's what most of our clients want to plan for, is not being a burden on anyone else in the future. And if the spend down is what gets you there, great. We're here to assist and make sure that your family relieves as much burden as possible when you're looking for it. But we're not specialists. We can't find the facility for you that has the bed available. That's a lot of work in the background to get you there. But what we can do is provide some form of long-term care coverage from a life insurance company. And it uses pennies for dollars for long-term care coverage in the future. And the other thing that some of those plans offer is a concierge service that can step in free of charge because it's written into the cost of your insurance. And they can find the facility that's right for you or the type of home health care that you need that's right for you. So, if you want to relieve the burden, actively planning for the future can relieve that burden and that stress from your family. And you don't even have to, lose sleep about it every single night trying to figure out what's next. Plus, like we mentioned earlier, you have your wishes on paper. So if you're at the point in time that you need help, it's not a big conversation for what would they have wanted because everyone in your life knows what you would have wanted and they're going to help you achieve that.
Just to sum it all up, caring about yourself and planning for it shows your care for the people you care about because they're going to be stuck holding a big bag if you haven't done anything and then you reach age, say, 85 or something or even 90, whatever, Willie Nelson's age, whichever one it is, and you start to you have all these things that need to be decided. Okay, so before we go, because this can kind of look, talking about all this maybe doesn't give you a spring in your step as we wrap up this episode of Kicking with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement. So I'd like to play a little comedy bit for the comedian Andy Huggins here, who talks about aging in well, a fun ways. Let's hear it.
Went into an antique store. They wouldn't let me leave. I tried using that face aging app. They said, nah, you're good. I went to the doctor because I thought I had arthritis. I don't. I have early onset rigor mortis. I joined a dating site for people my age called Carbon Dating. I asked a woman on the site for her number. She told me it was 140 over 95.
There you go, Andy Huggins. You can look up more of that just to do a little internet search of Andy Huggins there. So I'm glad we got to laugh a little bit about that, y'all. And it's not a laughing matter in the long run, but it is. You got to be self-aware, right, Gerry? Right, Heidi? You got to be self-aware. Like, hey, I'm approaching the age where it's funny to laugh at, but it's a real thing.
And at the end of the day, you don't have to do this alone. That's what we're here for. So if you have a loved one that's going through this and trying to figure out the spend down or what their options might be, reach out to us. We're here to assist.
Yeah, we'd love to help. We'd love to help in any way and just to educate you on what your options are and how you can keep money in the family and still, cover your long-term care expenses. That's a unique concept as well that we offer.
And we might have a laugh or two together too.
You bet.
We better. That's mandatory. So be sure to get with Ricken Financial, Gerry Ricken, Heidi Ricken Provost, RickenFinancial.com. Again, helping protect and preserve the retirement. Hey, and let's add in the long-term care you deserve too. Get there again, RickenFinancial.com. Let's wrap it up, guys. Put a smile on our face every day, Gerry.
This is a holiday.
And life is short, Heidi.
Laugh hard.
And we certainly will do that on the rest of this episode, the past part of this episode, and, of course, any future ones, too, here. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Kicking with the Rickens, Redefining Retirement. I'm Doug. That's Gerry. That's Heidi. Y'all have a wonderful day, and be sure to get with them at RickenFinancial.com.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Ricken Financial LLC. Ricken Financial LLC is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Ricken Financial LLC are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Ricken Financial LLC is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Ricken Financial LLC.
Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.